I'm not really sure if this is the right place to post this, but I think that it's worth sharing. I've spent the last 2 days thinking about it, worrying about it, and I just need to share what I've found, and hopefully someone might know more about it. It all started when I was looking at reviews on the internet for my local hospital, as I'm going there in a few days for a small procedure. I just wanted to make sure that the doctors there are reliable and good at what they do. Anyway, as I was scrolling through the reviews, I came across one that, for some reason, caught my attention. I've attached the review here, but have changed or removed any names and locations for privacy reasons. May 14th, 2017. 5 stars. Staff were very friendly, and my procedure was successful. I visited the South Hill Community Hospital 6 weeks ago for a procedure on my eyes, cataracts. The staff there were very kind and looked after my every need before I went into surgery. They made sure that I was comfortable and clear on what the operation would entail and what to expect afterwards. When it came time for my operation to start, I was taken through by a lovely nurse that made me feel relaxed by talking to me and distracting me from what was going to happen. The same nurse also gently injected the needle I needed to place me under anesthetic. From what I hear, the surgery was very successful, and I awoke feeling a bit groggy, but the staff at South Hill attended to my every need. I did have one moment that was a bit scary though, and maybe my own small complaint about my experience. About an hour after I'd woken up from surgery, I suddenly lost all vision, and everything went completely black. I began to panic and scream a bit, and I heard one of the staff let out a deep, long laugh, almost like they were laughing at me. I'm overlooking this, though, because of how fantastic the rest of the staff were at calming me down. Luckily, my vision did return after maybe a minute or two, and the doctors said that they weren't too sure as to what happened. And I didn't really care what happened. The main thing is that I could see again. Since then, I've had no trouble with my eyes, and I fondly remember my experience of South Hill Community Hospital. The review seemed fairly normal, but I was a bit concerned about the doctor who was laughing at a patient, and so I read the response that the hospital gave to this review, which I have also attached. Hello. Thank you for your kind words about our hospital. We're glad to hear that you had a mostly excellent experience and that your recovery is going well. In regard to the doctor that laughed at you, we have spoken to other staff that were present at the time, and they have all said that no doctor did laugh, and that they were all just trying their best to help you. We would never allow a doctor to laugh at a patient, and if it does come out that someone did, then the matter will be dealt with accordingly. Best of luck with your recovery. Signed, South Hill Community Hospital, May 16th, 2017. For some reason that I'm unsure of, I decided to look at what other reviews this man had left. I think maybe because of the laughing doctor that the hospital claimed didn't happen. I wanted to see if this reviewer had any other weird experiences elsewhere. This led me down a rabbit hole that I wish I hadn't gone down. The next review of his that I read was for a local restaurant, and I've attached the review and the restaurant's response here. May 21st, 2017. 4 stars. I wasn't aware that this was a themed restaurant. I booked a table at the restaurant for me and my brother to go out and enjoy some Italian food. Unfortunately, my brother had to cancel, and I thought that I would still make the most of my night and still go out for dinner by myself. The staff that greeted me at the door were very friendly, and they showed me to my table and allowed me to choose a glass of wine from a very impressive wine list. I enjoyed it, and I ordered my meal, which didn't take long to arrive, which I was very pleased with. I began eating, and it was delicious, maybe the best Italian dish I've ever had. It was about halfway through my meal when things got a little bit odd. Suddenly, all the lights went off, and the restaurant was left in the dark. At first, I thought it was my eyes, but I began to see a dark outline of a figure standing in front of me. The figure was quite tall and appeared to have long fingers that had very long nails at the end of them. The figure took a step towards me and lifted up one of the fingers, and pointed towards me. It then let out a loud growling noise when suddenly the lights flicked back on, and he was gone. At first, I was shocked as to what had happened, but I soon figured out that this is one of those themed restaurants, and this one must be horror-themed. Once I knew that, I began to realize how much I'd enjoyed the experience, and I feel it definitely added to my night. My only advice, however, would be to make it clearer that this restaurant is horror-themed, as some people might not enjoy it as much as me. The restaurant responded, "Thank you for your review, but we're a bit puzzled. We're not a horror-themed restaurant. We're just a small business that specializes in Italian cuisine. At first, after reading your review, I thought maybe you'd written the review about a different restaurant and accidentally posted it on our page. I decided to check security footage, though, and think I've managed to spot you, or someone that looks a lot like your profile picture, and I can confirm that no lights went out, or that anyone was standing in front of you. I did notice one thing, though, and that is, while you were eating, your eyes suddenly rolled back into your head, and you sat motionless for around 30 seconds before your eyes returned to normal, and you looked puzzled, but then continued eating. I hope that everything's okay, and that you're all right. Regards, signed, Management. June 2nd, 2017. I was getting more and more concerned about this reviewer at this point, and continued to read his other reviews, and read his review after that one, and found he had a similar experience elsewhere. The following is a review he posted about a live show he attended. May 28th, 2017. 3 stars. The play was fairly good, but the actors got a bit too close for my liking. Based on a recent experience at a horror-themed restaurant, they gave me a bit of a fun fright. I found that I became interested in finding something else that can give me a bit of a spook. That's when I found out that there was a play being performed at the Silverstone Theater. As this is near my house, I thought that I'd give it a go. I read some other reviews, and it said that this was supposed to be quite scary and would give everyone a bit of a fright. This sounded like something I'd be quite interested in. When the play began, I found myself enjoying it quite a bit. It provided a few good scares and a few good laughs. I found that it did get a bit boring during the middle section, but it's the ending I have the most issue with. I was sitting there watching the play, and during one of the moments that was dark and suspenseful, suddenly one of the actors appeared quite close to me. In fact, he was only inches away from my face, and he was staring straight into my eyes. His eyes were the only thing I could see. The rest of his face was still in silhouette, but he must have had some contact lenses on, because his eyes were a light yellow tinge around the whites of his eyes, and they were a dark red in the center. He then began to laugh, a deep, raspy laugh, and I could feel his hot, stinking breath against my face. Then, as quickly as he appeared, he disappeared again. I thought that this was a fairly cheap jump scare that for some reason singled me out. I think it's irresponsible of this production to not warn audience members that the actors may appear so close to them. End of review. At the time of posting this, there's been no response from the theater or the production company that put on the show. I was equal parts worried and curious. I needed to know more about this man and his strange reviews. I then read his next one, and while it wasn't as eventful as the previous ones, it was still strange. June 6th, 2017. 2 stars. The optometrist didn't even try to help me when I came to him for help. I've been having a strange problem with my eyes in the past few days, and so I turned to the optimistic optometrist for help. But help is not something he can provide. When I got there, I told him that for the past few days, I felt a weird shaking in my eyes. At first, he seemed concerned, which is the reason I'm giving you 2 stars and not 1, and he did begin to run a few tests as to why that might be. After trying a couple things, he quickly dismissed the idea that my eyes were shaking as being in my head, and he couldn't find any evidence that my eyes were shaking. He was quick to get me out of the door and told me to see a doctor if the problem persists. Well, the problem has persisted. In fact, it's gotten worse. I constantly feel a strong shake from behind my eyes, and it almost feels like something's trying to get out. It's gotten to the point where it's almost unbearable, and thanks to you, I wasn't able to find any comfort. End of review. There wasn't any reply to this review from any other users or from the optometrist at the time of posting. I was very concerned for this man now. He appears to have a serious issue, and almost every review seems to involve his eyes. The final review I can find from this user is one for a pawn shop, and the review and the response from the pawn shop may be the most concerning. June 8th, 2017. 1 star. Why advertise that you buy any item when you clearly do not? I came into your store this morning and tried to sell you an item, but was told to leave and that they wouldn't buy what I had to sell. However, the sign out front of your store reads, "We buy any item." This is clearly not true. I told you that I'd happily remove the item from its cases if that made it easier, but this is the moment when I was told to leave. I will not be returning to your store, as it appears you are lying in your advertising. Very disappointed. The pawn shop replied, "Can you please remove this review? It reflects very badly on my small business to have a bad review, especially when you didn't explain the full story, which is, you came into my store, quite distressed, and began yelling and begging me to take an item from you. You explained that I wouldn't need to buy it, that I could just have it. At first, I thought you were just trying to give me an illegal item that you needed to get rid of quickly. This is why I refused at first, but then you continued to explain what the item was. I know the sign out front of the store says that we buy any item, but I'm telling you right now, we definitely will not buy your eyes off of you, even if you do take them out of their cases, as you said. So, again, I would appreciate it if you did remove this review." End of response. After reading this final review, I was desperate to know more, but the reviews ended there. He never wrote another one. I then did a bit of detective work and looked at the Facebook page that was attached to his account and managed to find his brother. I then looked up any reviews his brother may have written, and I managed to find the only one. I have attached this review and the response here. 3 stars. Overall happy with service, apart from one thing. I recently had to use the services of South Hill Funeral Home for my own brother's funeral. The funeral service that they provided was very touching and is what we wanted, and more importantly, it's what my brother would have wanted. Nice words were said, and the place looked lovely. There were nice flowers around the chapel. The funeral was an open casket funeral, as per our request, and this was something that we had been very specific about and had given the funeral home specific instructions about. This is my one complaint. Given the way my brother died, we asked for his eyes to definitely be closed, but when we viewed the body, what I saw will always haunt me. I saw him lying there with his eyelids opened and the black holes where his eyes used to be, staring up at me. The management of the funeral home replied, "I'm glad to hear that the service was what your brother would have wanted. I am concerned, however, about your complaint. We made sure to follow all of your instructions in regard to preparing the body, and we made sure that his eyes were closed. I do also remember that when I moved his body after the service, his eyes were most definitely firmly closed. I am unsure how they would have been opened when you viewed the body, but I apologize for this mistake. Kind regards, management of South Hill Funeral Home. This review from his brother told me one thing: this man was now dead. This made me need to find out more about his death, and so I looked through the internet, searching for his name, his brother's name, and any of the locations that he wrote reviews for. Eventually, I managed to find one newspaper article from a fairly small local paper that I believe is about this man. I have attached this article here. Local man's death may have mistakenly been ruled a suicide. The coroner's report has just been released of the death of a local man. The man in question was found dead in his own apartment. He was found with scratches on his face and with both of his eyes removed from his head and were instead on the floor in front of him. It was originally believed to be a suicide, but the recent coroner's report has raised more questions than it provided answers. One of those questions is now, was this really a suicide? This is now being brought into question because of two key findings in the report. The first is a small, dark footprint that has been found just in front of where the body was found. The second finding is that it appears the man may not have removed his own eyes like originally thought, but instead they may have been pushed out of his head from the inside. End of article. This is all the information I'm able to find about this mysterious death, and I hope that more information may be uncovered, so that maybe I can find some answers.